This time we'll start the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, is there any public comment? Seeing none, can I get a verification of the posting of the agenda, please?
Pam Ward, for the record, the agenda was posted on March 22nd between the hours of 1 and 5 at the locations listed on the agenda.
Thank you, Pam. Can I get an approval of the agenda as revised?
I move to approve the agenda as revised. Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. 6A, consideration of possible action, presentation and discussion on the tentative budget for fiscal year 2024 through 2025, and possible input and direction from the Board of Churchill County Commissioners to the Comptroller regarding change of department budget requests since the budget hearing held on February 22nd, 2024. Sherry?
Thank you. I passed out this sheet here with the tentative budget. This is where I'm going to start. To go to the first page, what changed for the previous budget? These are the amounts that you guys requested to be changed at the last meeting. We decreased personnel by the $804,000. Service and supplies decreased by $2.4 million. Capital outlay decreased by $2.3 million. A lot of those decreases for the services and supplies and the capital outlay were removing the grant-funded projects so that it wasn't overinflated. They will be augmented when we get the expenditure and the grants in the right fiscal year. And so how did that roll out when we rolled it in? On the next page, with the red outline, it shows that our tentative budget shows a revenue of about $43 million, and the expenditures that were after those cuts were $76 million, which gave us an expected using a fund balance of $32 million. Of that, $22 million of that was capital outlay, which gave us a deficit of $10 million. It's to be noted that what happened here is during 2024, our opening fund balance, it was less than we budgeted by $790,000. So we started in lower than expected, so we will not be able to augment for a greater than anticipated opening fund balance in the current fiscal year. But it's also to be noted that overall fund balance, it was up $17.3 million. That was due to the Navy money and to a lot of the COVID money, and that money had been moved out of the general fund and out of other funds and put into the capital project fund to build the district court. But
$76 million, was that the budget before we started cutting?
no, that's the budget after we did these cuts on the first page.
Of the enhancements.
Yeah.
So that's above base of 24. That's with the skill enhancements in 25.
Yeah, and that's also includes capital projects, so it has 15 million for the courthouse in there. Okay, the next page. We need to cut budget, sorry to say, and we're going through trying to get things to balance. These are some of the suggestions that we came up with. We need to remove the general adjustment for general employees, which was 3% for 2025. I've created a new wish list, and let me just walk through how that works. The sums on the first page summarizes everything, but if you go to each page, they're still color-coded, and the ones that are highlighted are remaining, and everything that's not highlighted is we're requesting to remove, and you'll see the columns of the removals that you requested at the last meeting on the 22nd, and then the next column is the additional items that are being requested to be removed from budget. And then that goes through all of the services and supplies, and capital outlay is the yellow, and the pink is the community support. And we can go by those line by line after I just finish this part here. So that's what we're requesting there. We're also requesting to remove some unfilled positions and to delay or gap some of the unfilled positions that are sitting out there right now. And we're going to ask departments to decrease the remaining quarter of their services and let's see, which one? Oh, we're going to ask the departments to decrease this budget, the 2025 budget, by 15%. So we'll go back to the departments and say you need to decrease your service and supplies, because all this supplemental stuff was on top of the budget from last year. So we're getting rid of that, and then we're going to also ask them to cut from the current year what their budget was, which was also increased from the previous year. It's been increasing.
So this last quarter, we would have reduced the FY '24 by 10%, to create the FY '24 base budget, and then the FY '25 base budget is based on '24, we would have 15% above that.
Yeah, and
So
we're,
cumulative over 2
exactly.
years, you're talking 25%.
Yeah, in this last quarter, they have 25% of their expenditures left. We're going to ask them to reduce those by, and try to get ending balance of budgets they haven't used by 10%. And then from that, the budget that they did spend is what they're going to be asked to decrease another 15%. And we're going to see if we could reinstate CCCOM's transfer to the county in '25, the $845,000 transfer. No, the Pelt they're paying, which is like 500.
500,000.
Yeah.
This was the amount that was cut
Yeah.
in FY '24.
Yeah, because they're doing all the capital projects.
And
Yeah.
projects.
So we're going to ask to see if that would be reinstated. And then if we do all of this, except for the 5 and 6, because those we haven't estimated yet, but everything else was put into this next page. And what we're looking at, the budget looking more like, is our revenues will be 43 million. The tentative expenditures would be 61. That would give us expenditure of fund balance of 17 million. Of that is 10 million worth of capital outlay. That still leaves us a deficit of 7.4 million, but we're going to have the decreases in the budget of the 15% or 25%. So hopefully that'll help cover that. And
Along with gap increases through the what do we call it, committee? Position review.
yeah, going through the position review board. Also, we need to keep well, I can roll that onto the next page. But anyway, we need to keep a fund balance for the Department of Taxation. So rather, I had asked that we move that COVID help money at the last commissioners meeting to $3.4 million. I'm requesting that we leave that in the general fund to keep a fund balance there while we try to true up the general fund's expenditures. However, we'll still earmark it for a capital project in the future.
So in other words, it's a holding spot. It's not meant to bleed into, I mean, if we absolutely had to, we could, but it's not the intent. The intent is that we'll build up that forward moving money and that reserve over the next year or 2 years, and then be able to shift that over into capital projects. Additionally, we'll continue to pursue the Bureau of Rec funding as an earmark, which is almost $5 million, $4.7 million, that would then all being one-shot money that would go in towards the courthouse capital improvement project. Sorry.
No, that's perfect. You helped me out. Thank you. And so that's that. And then just the next page is a summary of what the expenses look like now with everything except for the 25% decrease. Just in summary by fund. And then the next page are the revenues, which are different than what was sent out with the budget packet, because it's including these decreases. And the next page is the rules for taxation, and that's the presentation. Now, we can go through the wish list if you like, and ask any questions about any of the stuff that's being cut, and I'd be happy to answer what I can.
One
Or any questions?
general philosophy statement, as you look through those, though, just kind of have an idea, so it kind of makes sense. we try to keep the idea that the county has to continue to move forward, has to continue to provide services and do all those things. So then one of the examples is utilities. We have, basically 22% inflation over the past, from 2019 to or into FY '24 to current. And, so utilities reflect that inflation. So those are areas that we're gonna have expenditures, so it's increased costs that we have to deal with. So we left those in there. The example of the 5-year replacement on computers. That left us with a 72 computer replacement in FY '25. Rather than just cutting that completely, we had them call and print off a list of the aged computers, and we're basically taking 25 of the most aged computers and funding that. So you basically save $75,000 from, so it's above the '24 budget, and we don't know where it's gonna fall. Maybe all the old computers are at the sheriff's office, maybe they're Shannon's, I have no idea where they are. It just identified the age. So we'll replace those oldest 25, we'll look at those ones that are coming on service that are maybe, because I think the oldest was 12 years, and then that got into some of the 6-year-old computers. And so then obviously some of those newer ones we'll reevaluate and put those into storage in case we have computer failure and need to rob to get us through. The next year we'll try to do that same thing. So we still are staying in a replacement phase of our computers, our machines, our things, so that they're operating. But maybe it's not a 5-year, maybe it's closer to a 6 or 7 year by the time we're out of a 3-year cycle. So those are kind of the philosophies and what we try to look at through here.
Any questions or comments for Sherry?
The public defender, is that being funded by the state?
Yes, well, some of it is. We have $500,000 that are within budget that we supposedly are supposed to pay according
That's
to
for
the
base expenses when they
for
came
bids.
in to say they would support public defender's office. So everything above that, they are saying is reimbursable.
And I put the revenue of $1.4 million to cover the additional expenses above the $500,000.
Obviously, some of those projects like the are already in motion. Those projects will be finished out in terms of capital improvement projects. Moving forward, to continue to pursue the development of the courthouse, we'll continue with the jail remodel, the old jail remodel to evidence and all of those components, so that we can show that we're continuing to move forward to address the ADA and safety concerns in the current existing courthouse. But we'll basically take the courthouse construction project itself, which is not unreasonable in terms of the time it takes to fix the jail, move the sheriff out of the old bank building and demolish the bank building, to have a place to build a courthouse, but that's probably gonna take a year anyway. But then we would be able to evaluate again a year from now as we go through budget process where we are on construction. We'll also have a better idea of the money that we'll have in the capital outlay. Did we, in that 12 months, get the 4.7? Were we able to make up some of the gap on the reserve for general fund to move some of that COVID one-shot money into the courthouse construction?
And it should be noted too, some of these that are remaining are considered grant funded. So any kind of increases are supposed to be only just for the grants that can be reimbursed. It shouldn't be any type of cost to the county.
Anything that general fund will fall under the 15%, 10%, 15%. Obviously, we don't want to reduce services that other outside entities can provide to support. That's going to count.
Any other questions or comments? Is there any public comment?
Shannon, how's this gonna affect you?
I haven't comprehended it all yet. There's a lot on
There's a
here.
lot.
I need to talk to Sherry, because a lot of this is grants that are on here that are showing their cut, and like one of the merits and things, that's a grant position.
Okay.
I'm just worried about some of our rehab projects and construction projects.
Yeah, those are all taken, all the construction projects are taken off, but they will be augmented for any kind of grant money that
They're
comes
not
in.
100% grants, I'm sure.
So we'll have to address those as we deal with them. So we'll be able to do one-offs and make those decisions.
Hey, your new building.
lab is, the one side is not, social services side is not.
But that's a project that's already underway, that will be done by the time we get into the fiscal year, so that will continue. And that's like availability, those projects that we're in the middle of. Yeah, I mean, you know, we got open walls, and we gotta finish those kind of things up. Projects that we've done, plans for, gone through design, are probably gonna be put on a shelf and look at for a future, moment. Things like, you know, caps and those kind of projects, we're gonna have to set aside and look at other alternatives. I mean, caps is gonna have some needs that we're probably gonna have to address, but instead of a new caps building, what we may have, if we got the design and plan sitting there for the future, but what we may have in the short term is we invest a little more money in working on a well, some of those kind of offsets. The intent is we keep everything moving forward, we can't mothball the county or, you know, so some of this, having in 2 days, basically, to make the adjustments that we've had to make, we're clearly gonna make some mistakes along the way and recognize that we're gonna have folks come back to the table and piecemeal some of this stuff up as we move forward.
And the hope that inflation goes down.
Right, but we tried really hard. Yeah, inflation goes down, tax revenue goes up. I mean, a couple of things I would preface this with, right? We're not in a bad position. We have, basically, with this budget, we have somewhere around $20 million in standing one-shot kind of money. We have big projects out there, but we haven't pulled the trigger on those projects, so we can kind of control, you know, our destiny and our future where we're at. We have development that's continuing to move forward in the county, at least 3 significant projects that I'm aware of, that I think could obviously impact revenue moving forward in a positive way. Additionally, I feel confident that we're gonna get some level of SNPLMA that's gonna be extremely significant, millions, and spreading that in the community over a 3-year period will have direct impacts on sales tax and all of those kind of things. So I don't want to portray this as a doom and gloom, because it's not, but I think it's a fiscal tightening of the belt and being responsible. We don't want to burn one-shot money is what we're trying to do. We're trying to get the ship where we're not burning one-shot money. We don't have a huge debt service commitment, so that's good, right? All of those things add into it, but, you know, in my mind, it's much better to have a little pain right now and over the next 6 months than it is to keep putting it off to have a whole hell of a lot of pain. None of this is proposing layoffs or reductions in current salary rates or anything like that. But we will, you know, there are parts of the county that are going to get pay increases in 25, and parts of the county that are not. But we'll all be employed.
Any other questions or comments?
Sheriff, how's this gonna affect you? I don't see a lot of cuts, except maybe personnel, but how's this gonna affect you?
Personnel will be hard. For some of those positions, we will drop our patrol levels below where they were when I started. Are you filling those positions right now? We're actively trying to fill them, yes. We
So
just tested.
with this proposed budget, you would go from 55.96 FTE to 51 FTE, although with the caveat that the position that's retiring right now, we'll look at gapping that and try to figure out, you know, we've had probably, when we break everything out, inflation's risen 22%. Our tax revenue has risen within 0.5% of that. So those things are right on line. COLA for non-union staff has 19.5%, somewhere in there, over that same 2019 to current level. Some of those other areas are breaking that significantly. I mean, some of that
later on, if we need to, we can fill this position.
Well, basically, as we loosen up, it'd be the process the county's always gone through, where things got better like they did in 2018 and 2019. The sheriff and other positions will be able to come forward and make requests to increase this. But I will say, at least we are, in terms of FTEs in the sheriff's office, we're gonna be above what we were in 2018. I think 2018 was 47.
Yeah, we came in significantly understaffed on the side. Because before it was 2 steps out of booking cage and you were in the population. With the new facility we have, there's multiple steps to get to anywhere we have, so, we need more people for that, so that's why we've been asking for people and that. We had several people either retire or leave from the patrol side, and it takes about a year, once we get somebody, hired for into the facility to get to post and get trained and be actually able to work on the patrol side, so it takes a long time, so, we're trying to work through that process, but in the meantime, while this is happening, we're going to be significantly understaffed on the patrol side.
And all of that is accurate and wouldn't argue any of it. The problem that we have on this side is that it's, you know, we're around that 22% mark with everything else, and you're at COLA that we've spent, which we've tried to, you know, push money towards the sheriff's office, support the sheriff's office to get more staff hired up to be able to compete with Washoe County and other surrounding areas' wages, but their COLA is 27.75% above or over that same period, as matched with other staff at 19%. And then service and supplies there, again, trying to catch up, just like the sheriff is suggesting, but over that same time period, that's 33% that so there's, the problem is when you look at it, there's 2 places where the money exists, which means there's really 2 places that we can cut, and that's in staffing, payroll, and personnel, and service and supplies. And so that's the math.
We'll have to look at the contracted services, because some of those we don't have a choice on, so we'll have to look at.
Yeah, and that's where specifically, like we were talking about there's things that we may have missed in the last 2 days shuffle to get this. We totally acknowledge that, and as those one-offs come, we'll just start addressing them. We have to.
We'll let them, all the departments have heads.
All the departments will have that,
Until
exactly.
come in to Sherry,
So
figure out where
we'll
they're
have,
gonna do and what.
in our plan and rollout, it will be, we'll have a, early department head meeting, hopefully somewhere. I thought it would be the girl in my schedule, I don't like, let's do Thursday. So we'll figure out a morning next week, we can have a department head meeting, we may wind up having it like 7:30 in the morning, so that we can get everybody around the table and get it done, and go through, here's what we've got, so then they'll have the opportunity to bring some of these things to us before the final budget is presented and approved, like the 3rd week of May. So we'll have that bite at it, and then we always have the opportunity during the fiscal year to say, this issue arose, or this thing came up, so we have to, and those things will exist out there.
Mm-hmm.
Again, we're sitting on a good cash reserve, obviously targeted for a purpose. But that means we got a good cash reserve, and we can make decisions as we move forward as we need to.
Lane, how about you? How about the district court, district attorney's office?
Look, getting the contracted service, I can already tell you that, like, most of it is insufficient. Just based on last year's numbers that we had in contracted services. And all those go up 6% every year in the contract. Some things we have to have, like our alarm system, our CJIS system requires it, and our.
There's gonna be a million of these one-offs,
Yeah.
and we acknowledge it.
Well, I don't see a lot of cuts,
So.
except the personnel.
No, you're talking over 2 years, about the supplies and services.
Okay, so
That's significant.
the only other thing is that we just foresee expenses going up because the other side is bigger than our office now.
Okay.
Can I ask one other question to you, Ms. Sherry?
Mm-hmm.
We, I apologize, multiple.
No, you're good.
Too much time. We can't foresee how many corner cases we're gonna have, since we can't foresee the number of that down the road. So if we run into a situation where our corner budget, say, is exceeded for autopsies and for other supplies that we need for like body bags and stuff, can we come forward and ask part of the way through the year, or is that one of those?
If we're in a budget upside down deal, definitely yes. But I think the point of cutting the budget, right, is looking for somewhere else where we can squeeze that out and then move our supplies and services money around to try to get to where we achieve.
Exactly. See, there's areas that can be controlled and there's areas that can't be controlled. I would, as a department head, I would focus on the ones you can control and try to cut those as much as possible so that you can get it balanced. Rather than looking at line by line, say, okay, well, like, yeah, this one's gonna be up 6%, but maybe we won't do this much or this because,
Just like in case there's a disaster.
pardon? What?
Well, if there's a disaster, all of our, focus changes, right?
Yeah, we'll get FEMA and that'll be a good time.
Oh, God.
I can promise the county will not be building a weir this year.
Sheriff, give us that $4.5 million.
You promise that?
Promise.
Yeah.
Leastwise until they pay us for the one we built.
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? Public comment. Can I get a motion, please?
I move to approve the tentative budget for FY '25 and direct the comptroller to provide it to the Department of Taxation as outlined in the statute.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry. This time, is there any public comment? Seeing none, we're adjourned.
Now with that said,